The river shimmered beneath the soft glow of the late afternoon sun, its gentle currents winding their way past a small village nestled at the very edge of a dense forest. The air was alive with the sounds of birds chirping high in the trees, their melodies blending with the earthy scent of damp soil and flowing water. It was a simple yet beautiful place, untouched by the rush of modern life. Elena, her forehead glistening with sweat, trudged along the narrow path leading home. The weight of a long day's labor pressed heavily on her weary shoulders, but she moved with quiet resilience. Life in the village was humble. Its people worked hard, bound together not by wealth but by the shared struggles of rural existence. They had little, yet they found joy in the simple things: the laughter of children, the warmth of a meal, the companionship of neighbors. As she neared the riverbank, a sudden sound sliced through the tranquil air, a sharp, panicked cry, followed by a desperate, choking gasp. Elena's heart stopped mid-beat. Her sharp gaze darted across the water, searching. And then she saw him, a small boy no older than 6, thrashing against the river's pull. His tiny arms flailed wildly, his head dipping beneath the surface before breaking free again, gasping for breath. There was no time to think. Her basket hit the ground as she lunged forward, plunging into the frigid water. The shock of the cold sent a shiver through her limbs, but she fought against it, pushing forward with powerful strokes. The current was stronger than it looked, dragging her backward, but she would not let it win. Not today. Just as he slipped beneath the surface once more, her hand grasped his frail, trembling body. With every ounce of strength, she pulled him close, wrapping her arm around his small frame and kicking hard against the unrelenting current. The weight of his soaked clothes and his shivering form pressed against her, but she kept going, determination surging through her veins. Inch by inch, she fought the river, finally hauling them both onto the shore. The boy coughed violently, water spilling from his lips as his tiny body convulsed with shivers. Elena wasted no time, pulling her shawl from where she had discarded it and wrapping it around him. "You're safe now," she whispered, her voice soft but firm, rocking him gently. His wide, frightened eyes locked onto hers, and though he said nothing, the way his trembling fingers clutched at her dress told her everything. He was terrified, and he needed her. Taking him into her modest cottage, she worked quickly to warm a pot of soup, the rich aroma filling the small space as she placed his wet clothes near the fire to dry. As the days passed, she learned his name, Victor. His story, however, broke her heart. His parents, struggling to survive, had left him in the care of distant relatives who barely noticed his absence. No one had come looking for him. Elena knew what had to be done. Days turned into weeks, and weeks stretched into months. Victor became her shadow, following her to the fields, lending small hands to chores, and sitting by the fire each night, wide-eyed as she told him stories of the world beyond the village. He was eager, bright, and filled with a hunger for knowledge that burned deep within him. Though Elena had little, she sacrificed what she could. She scrimped and saved, setting aside just enough to send him to the village school. Some nights, she would go to bed hungry just to make sure he had books and pencils, but she never let him see the sacrifices she made. Her love was quiet, steady, unshaken. Victor, in turn, never took her kindness for granted. He studied late into the night, his eyes straining against the flickering light of a candle, determined to carve a future for himself. And as he grew older, his dreams expanded beyond the limits of their small village. One day, with tears glistening in her eyes, Elena gave him her blessing. With only a small bag of belongings and a heart filled with determination, Victor left for the city. The world he entered was unlike anything he had ever known. Vast, relentless, teeming with opportunity but equally unforgiving. He took on whatever jobs he could find while attending university, often sacrificing sleep just to stay afloat. He endured struggles, failures, and even discrimination, but through it all he never wavered. Every obstacle reminded him of Elena, the woman who had saved his life, the one who had given him everything when she had so little herself. Years passed. Victor worked tirelessly, his sharp intellect and unyielding drive earning him a place in the business world. He climbed the ranks with relentless determination, proving himself time and time again. No longer was he just another employee. His name carried weight, commanding respect in rooms he had once only dreamed of entering. But through every milestone, every success, his thoughts always drifted back to one person. One evening, as the sun cast golden hues across the sky, Victor returned to the village. The roads were unchanged, the houses still standing as they always had, but time had left its mark on Elena. The woman who had once carried him from the river now had hands that trembled slightly. Her once dark hair now dusted with silver. She had received his letters, accepted the money he had sent, yet nothing compared to the moment she saw him standing before her once again. Tears welled in her eyes as she embraced him. But this visit was different. Victor took her hands and gently led her outside, where a sleek black car awaited. Without a word, he guided her inside and drove down winding roads, stopping before a beautiful house on the outskirts of the village. Tall, modern, yet warm, it stood proudly, its gardens stretching toward the river. "This is yours," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Elena's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. But his gift did not end there. Victor had built more than a home. He had also established a school in the village, ensuring that no child would ever be denied an education the way he almost had been. He had come back not only for Elena but for the entire community that had shaped him. As Elena reached up, cupping his face with trembling hands, pride shone through every wrinkle. She had once saved a drowning boy, but in the end he had lifted her, and an entire village, out of hardship. Standing together beneath the evening sky, Victor realized something profound. Wealth wasn't measured by money alone. True riches lay in the love that had shaped him, the sacrifices made for him, and the gratitude that filled his heart. And at that moment, with Elena's hand in his, he knew he had finally come home.